Well, hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Dray. I'm a board-certified dermatologist. Comment below, have you ever seen someone with thickened, almost swollen appearing skin on their upper back, up by their neck, almost looks like a hump? Maybe you even thought, is that a buffalo hump? Because I was reading all about warning signs of high cortisol, and I think that person has a buffalo hump. Oh my gosh, their cortisol must be high. Well, it could be a buffalo hump, but in today's video, we're going to talk about another condition that looks very similar but is entirely different and means something completely different, and that is scleredema. Not to be confused with scleroderma, another condition that sounds very similar but is very different. As a side note, I actually have a dedicated video all about scleroderma, so if you thought that's what this one was about, don't worry, I'll link that one down below in the description box. I'll put it in a pinned comment so you can make your way there and watch that video if that's what you were interested in. Today I'm going to explain what sclerodema is, why it happens, why it's important to recognize it, intervene early to prevent serious disease, why it is completely different from the buffalo hump of high cortisol. We're even going to dive into the skin microscopically to find out what is happening below the surface of the skin to form this hump on the upper back or neck area. What exactly is sclerodema? Sclerodema is a skin change where you have thickening of the skin that feels very woody. It feels firm. When you press on it, this is important, okay? This is very important. When you press on it, it does not dent. That's called non-pitting. In contrast to different types of edema where you have fluid accumulating in the skin, you press and you can squish down. It leaves a dent that stays there for a while. This doesn't do that, okay? So that's important right off the bat. And it can present in a variety of different ways. There are a few subtypes which we're going to touch on briefly, but far and away, the most common way it's going to be presenting is on the upper back and the neck area. And sometimes it can involve the shoulders as well. It's not a tumor, it's not fluid buildup, and importantly, it's not fat accumulation. It's a change that happens in the connective tissue of the skin, specifically down in the dermis. Now, there are three subtypes of sclerodema. Briefly, I'm going to talk about the first two types, but the majority of the video is going to be focused on the third type, which is more common. Type 1 sclerodema usually happens after an infection, most commonly a strep throat infection or a strep infection in general. This is the one that children can get. In contrast to what we're talking about here with involvement of the upper back, the back of the neck, this variant mostly involves the face, actually. It can also involve the throat. It's very, very stressful to go through. It can even affect the individual's ability to speak properly. However, fortunately, this variant, not only is it rare, but when it does happen, it self-resolves, usually within about 6 months to 2 years, which is very, very annoying for the patient, but it does not typically last beyond that. Then there is type 2 sclerodema. This is associated with abnormal proteins in the blood, something that is encountered usually in older adults, and it is very rare. This accumulation of abnormal proteins in the blood is specifically called a monoclonal gammopathy. This form, in contrast to type 1, can be chronic and persistent, and it often heralds the development of the condition multiple myeloma. So it requires medical monitoring. Now let's talk about type 3, which is the more common type. Type 3 is also known as Scleredema diabeticorum. This is pretty much only encountered in adults. It occurs in adults who have long-standing, usually poorly controlled diabetes. It mostly happens with type 2 diabetes, though it can happen with type 1 diabetes as well. It's more frequently seen in men, but women develop it as well. It's described as rare, and it's often associated with obesity. So it might actually be something that is difficult to appreciate early on. Maybe the patient doesn't notice it, no one has noticed it. It might go missed when it's in the early stages of development. They might just attribute it to being overweight, but it's not that. It's associated with suboptimal blood sugar control. If you weren't aware, diabetes can take a toll on the skin in a number of ways, and there are a huge array of different skin conditions, skin findings that can develop, arise in the setting of having type 2 diabetes. Check out my video on what diabetes does to your skin for more information, because yeah, it really can do a number, and this is one thing that might happen. People with sclerodema diabeticorum, they usually develop the thickening skin, like I said, on the upper back, the back of the neck, and sometimes the shoulders. The skin feels firm and it feels bound down, like you can't really move that hump of tissue around. It is like fixed, bound down. It almost has like a leathery texture texture to it. Like I said, when you press on it, it doesn't pit. Unfortunately, over time, this thickening can really start to limit mobility, especially in the shoulders, which is very, very problematic for diabetics in particular, because if you weren't aware, people who have diabetes are at a significantly elevated, I want to say 5 times increased risk of developing something called adhesive capsulitis or frozen shoulder syndrome. And that condition plus this, I mean, that's a real big mobility, quality of life issue that you are approaching if you have this and continue to have your diabetes not be well controlled. Now, one thing that's important about this condition is that it does not involve the hands or the fingers. That's important because sometimes it's not clear, it might be confusing. Is this scleredema or scleroderma? Which scleroderma will involve the hands and the fingers. It's usually where it first starts to appear with that tightened skin. That's not what's happening here with scleredema diabeticorum. With scleredema diabeticorum, it's going to be the upper back, the back of the neck, and the backs of the shoulders. So that's a helpful distinguishing feature between the two conditions that sometimes can get a little confusing if you don't know what to look for. Now, here's what everyone wants to know. How is this any different than the buffalo hump that patients who have high cortisol can develop, or patients who are on chronic steroids, glucocorticoid steroids, I should say, not the bodybuilding anabolic steroids, although those have their own host of skin findings. I digress. So the buffalo hump that is seen in association with pathologically elevated cortisol or secondary to medication is fat accumulation. The high cortisol in that condition leads to abnormal fat distribution in the face, the upper back. And so that will go away once the cortisol is controlled. It's fat accumulation, so it can go away. Scleredema, on the other hand, is not fat, and it's not caused by cortisol excess. It's caused by poorly controlled blood sugar of type 2 diabetes usually, though it can happen in type 1 as well. Scleredema feels firm, woody, and fixed as opposed to just fat, which is squishy. A buffalo hump is just extra padding, whereas scleredema is woody, thickened skin. At first glance, they may look very similar. Like if you just take a photo of somebody in side profile, it's kind of hard to know which one they might be dealing with, but they're very different. What's actually happening here then, if it's not accumulation of fat, like what is this made of? Well, in long-standing poorly controlled diabetes, chronically elevated blood sugars start to affect proteins throughout the body. Glucose can actually attach to collagen. This is something I talk a lot about in some of my videos on how your diet contributes to aging of the skin. We talk about glycation and advanced glycation end products. This is a little different, however. Collagen, if you weren't aware, is one of the main structural components of our skin. When glucose binds to collagen, it alters its structure. The collagen becomes stiffer, a lot less flexible. And over time, this contributes to thickening of the dermis, the deeper part of the skin. But this is key. In addition to the stiffening of the collagen, you get this profound accumulation of something called mucin in the dermis between the collagen bundle. So if you take a biopsy of the skin from the affected area and you look at the deeper layers of the skin, what you're going to see is all of this mucin spreading out between the little collagen bundles. And that's what underlies the thickening and the firmness of the skin. This is in contrast to a buffalo hump where it's just a fatty deposit. This isn't a fatty deposit, it's abnormalities in the collagen and a accumulation of mucin. There's really not any inflammation in the skin either when you go looking under the microscope at a biopsy. And the outermost layer, the epidermis, also looks completely normal. So the process is happening deeper in the connective tissue. What ends up happening here? Does this continue to grow and grow, or will it go away? Unfortunately, type 3 scleredema, in contrast to type 1, tends to be chronic. It develops gradually, and yes, it can progress. But in many cases, it sort of stabilizes and remains the same. But it doesn't completely resolve. Getting good control of the blood sugar can help slow down and prevent progression, and it may improve a bit. The reason why it's so important to recognize this and to do something about it is that it tells you that you need better blood sugar control. Not having good blood sugar control is going to take you down a path of multiple serious health complications. The condition itself will progress and can seriously limit your mobility as well. So that is another reason why this is an important warning sign of poorly controlled diabetes that needs to be identified. If you go to the dermatology textbooks, the medical literature, and you look up information on this, you're going to find that they're going to tell you that this is rare. I would say it's probably not rare, it's just probably underdiagnosed and rare to actually present to a dermatologist because of access issues and things of that sort. Is there anything that you can do if you have it to treat it, to get rid of it, to help it lessen, make it go away in any way, shape, or form? A variety of treatment modalities have been tried, and there's really no universal agreed upon approach or anything that reproducibly works. Some things that have been tried with varying amounts of success are phototherapy with UVA1. So UVA1, as you guys may already know from perhaps my videos or just your own knowledge, UVA are the rays from the sun that penetrate really deeply and destroy the dermis. But in dermatology, we can, take the poison and dose it to use it as a therapy, in which case it might be helpful here, in destroying some of that abnormal dermis. But it's, again, met with varying levels of success. Some people have even tried UVB phototherapy, which is a little bit different, but calms down inflammation. That doesn't really do much, which makes sense. This isn't really an inflammatory condition. And, this is a thing going on in the dermis where UVB is more of an epidermal treatment. There have been cases where systemic immunomodulators have proven to be useful. That's more so, though, for some of the other types of sclerodema, the type 1 and type 2. IV immunoglobulin has been tried with varying levels of success. The idea there is that maybe it will bind up some sort of circulating factor that we have yet to identify that is triggering the mucin accumulation. We just don't have large clinical trials to come up with a treatment approach. So the management, for the most part, is individualized and focused on getting control of the blood sugar. Key takeaways I want you to leave this video with: sclerodema is thickening of the skin secondary to mucin accumulation in the setting of poorly controlled diabetes. It has nothing to do with cortisol excess. It is not fat accumulation. You can't spot reduce it with diet or exercise. Under the microscope, the epidermis looks pretty normal, but down in the dermis is where all of this mucin is just piling up and piling up. And if left unaddressed, it can go on to really involve your shoulders and significantly impact your mobility. Not to mention, not controlling the blood sugar is not setting you up for success health-wise in any stretch of the imagination. And the treatment approach focuses on getting control of the blood sugar. That's the most important thing, to spare internal organs from further damage of the blood sugar. And so I hope this video was informative to you guys out there. Maybe you have even seen this in other people. Let me know in the comments, although I don't suggest going around trying to diagnose random strangers. Now, on the end slate, I'm going to put one of my other videos on skin warning signs of internal health not to miss, so check that one out if you missed it. But if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye!